If there are any hands, please maybe raise them. Okay, we have Sbu here. And do we have another person here? Okay, Mr. Mafokate is in the house. Do you have another third person? You can use your language to ask questions. Don't worry about that. We have Sbu to translate. Don't worry. Okay?
Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation. My first question is, because we are targeting training and workshop programs that, I mean, we're not accredited, but we want to create a standardization. And what problem we're facing in the Black Business Council Youth Portfolio Committee especially, I mean, the bigger ones, you see them, they're always responding to the president's speech, this. And I'm not really interested in that. I'm really interested on where I can mobilize creative practitioners, not artists, because there's a very vague definition as to what an artist is, but include different forums to contribute, because what happens is we'll get given a bill that we have to comment on, and when we comment on this bill, not enough votes or not enough comments are done, and not enough circulation was done, and then the bill on the final day reverts back to the policy reverts back to the old one. So I'm not sure if that's a thing that is done deliberately for us not to actually reform the industry, or if it's just maladministration from an MP level. And my question to you is the standardization, the standard measure of participation within creative practitioners. How can we uniform that? And with people with your experience, how can we call on them to come through entities like CCIGA so that us, as the enterprise development partner, can also make sure that we don't now start speaking a different narrative? How do we keep the message consistent? Yeah, that's my question.
Beautiful. I think you can answer that before the next one.
Sure. So one of the big challenges that I've encountered over the last 30 years of being involved in the arts and trying to be engaged in advocacy is the reluctance of artists to be involved. So you have this ironic situation that on the one hand, those of us in the arts sector believe that, you know, we are neglected, no one really loves us, and we are having a very bad experience. And so I say to ask people, the only way that you're going to change this is to change the policy at the top, to change the funding mechanisms that flow from policy. But in order for you to be able to do that, you need to be organized, because the state doesn't talk to an individual. The state wants to engage with an organization. And the state sometimes uses that to also divide and rule, because they'll say so the state organizes their own organization, say they are now your country's representatives, and if you organize another one, then no, you're not legitimate, you are and so, you know, the state also plays people off against each other. The long and the short of it is that artists need to be organized. They need to have a voice. Not everyone, as I say, wants to be part of an organization where they're dealing with policy. People, as creatives, they want to be able to create their work, take their work to an audience, earn a living through it, pay their rent, create the next work, and so on. I get that. But at the same time, the work needs to be done at a macro level to change policy and to make sure that policy is not just created, because that's only the start, that policy is implemented properly. And when we drafted the Breathing New Life into Theatre and Dance policy last year, one of the very big things that we had at the end of it in terms of implementation, we said, we cannot simply leave this to the department to implement, because over the last 30 years, they've shown themselves not to have the competence to be able to implement the policy in the way that we have envisaged it to be. So they need to work alongside a body that we as arts people establish to make sure that these policies are implemented properly. So government working with, we recognize the government has the primary role to implement policy, but they must work with the sector to be able to do so and to monitor and the like. So my advice to you would be, find the organizations that are out there. I mean, there's Theatre and Dance Alliance, for example. They came into existence precisely to be a voice for the sector during the COVID period, but now they continue to be a voice that tries to change policy, and through COVID got to be represented at quite high levels within government with regard to policy and that. So maybe I can give you the details if you need, if you don't have them. But also finding out other institutions that are working in this particular area. There's the South African Cultural Institutions Incubator in Pretoria. They do excellent work, and they have a relationship with a particular university where they get accreditation by virtue of this relationship with the university. Last year, we initiated a project where we wanted to have the people, so we were providing training, I suppose in the way that you described. Because we have capacity as people in the industry for a long time, we are able to run workshops in fundraising and in marketing and in this. But the people who went into those workshops didn't receive any certificate at the end of it to say that they had expertise in this. So we had this relationship where we went to the University of Stellenbosch, to their business school, and said, can you set up a course for us, which we will input into, but then you give the credibility by virtue of this being a Stellenbosch University course. And they did. So they have this 4-month course where leaders of community arts centers went on this training program, and then they got a certificate that said they'd been to a University of Stellenbosch event, and they got a letter as well to say that each of these people has been through this particular number of courses as part of the overall kind of course that they were part of. And I think that that's what we need to do, increasingly have the work that we do at a community level be recognized by institutions that the authorities recognize, so that the people who go through our courses have a kind of legitimacy in the marketplace, and that also they'll be able to earn at the levels that that qualification entitles them to.
You want to do a follow-up on that? Okay.